Video disclaimer. You shall know the truth. The truth shall set you free. John 8. When we talk about being wealthy, we often think that it involves being financially dependent, responsible, or stable. But technically, that's just one of the wealth class. I understand the eagerness of being financially successful is highly glorified in our society today, making it oblivious to its true meaning. The word opulent means wealth and luxury, but in my own definition, I'd define opulent or opulence as having a luxurious perception of oneself materially or metaphorically. I'd be backing up my definition based on biblical and scriptural proofs of King Solomon. 1 Kings chapter 3, from verse 9 to 11, says, "Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people?" And the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said unto him, Because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but hast asked the life of thine enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Let's take a look at another verse of the Bible. 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 23 says, "King Solomon exceeded all the kings on the earth in riches and in wisdom." I believe that a healthy mind is a wealthy mind. If your mind is equipped with the right wisdom from God, you're definitely ready to acquire financial wealth. There is dignity in wisdom, and there's integrity in understanding. These two primary words is highly crucial in life, not just the life of Solomon, but also in our individual lives. The hidden message behind the story of Solomon is the fact that he never asked God to bless him with material possessions. I mean, we all can agree and attest to the fact that God is far more than able to give Solomon lands to establish a nation if Solomon asked for it. But the striking phenomenon about this remains the fact that Solomon neglected physical possession and requested for spiritual possession and requested for spiritual possession. Wisdom is a gift of the Spirit, and it is a spirit created by God, but regulated by the chief commander himself, the Holy Spirit. Solomon knew that it is only wisdom that is needed to acquire wealth. And inasmuch as we might agree or disagree, there are so many others like Solomon today that if God should ask you to choose between wisdom and $1 billion, 99.9 will rather pick $1 billion deal over wisdom because we all have free will. I am not here to condemn anyone or anything thereof. I am only here to assist those who are willing to change their narratives about God and money, without imposing my beliefs on anyone, but making you think differently in order to see reasons why you should never worship money or riches. Great is the thirst for spiritual freedom, fulfillment, happiness, and equality. Likewise, great is the lack of happiness, for it's just the beginning of a conflicting world of abyss. I believe that majority of the poor long for riches, believing that earthly possession would bring them supreme, long-lasting happiness, especially as a young man or woman from Africa, specifically Nigeria, where I was born and raised in. I'm not trying to paint a wrong image of Nigerian youths. My apologies if it does. But that's not the case. My honest motive is to sincerely expose underground diabolic and erroneous way of living, to enlighten myself and other youths by providing a truthful solution for those who are desperately hungry for wealth. The erroneous desperation and wrongful intentions for having a financial life at all cost is totally problematic. Many who are rich, having gratified every desire from within, suffer from ennui and repletion. I psychically observed that so many individuals drift farther from wisdom in pursuit for what they perceive to be true happiness materially. If we reflect on the fact that we need wisdom from God to survive in today's world, it will ultimately lead us to a state of complete understanding and self-acceptance. The reason is because true wisdom comes with a complete truth, of which we can equally agree that happiness is not derived from mere outward possessions nor misery from the lack of them. For if this was so, then we should find the poor miserable at all times, and the rich always happy at all times. Now, just because I love engaging my readers metaphorically, the goal is to make such readers see reasons to think for themselves. That's the only way to be awakened spiritually. Here's my question for you. What's your perception of happiness? Is it a substantial figment or delusion? Likewise, do you think or believe sufferings are perennial? Please share your answers in the comments. I believe if we ask these ourselves, these questions, and listen to our hearts, we shall find true observation and deep reflection that in some way, our answers or reasons, is wrapped up on the fact that we've consciously or unconsciously programmed our subconscious mind to believe that happiness is only to be obtained by one's gratification of desire. My prophetic predictions, according to divine revelation, tells me that 1. 85 of those reading this believes that true happiness is monetarily based, having billions and millions in their bank accounts, having not to worry about paying bills anymore. 2. 15 of those reading this believes that true happiness is about having fame, luxury homes and cars. 3. 10 of those reading this believes that true happiness is all about having the right partner or spouse, relationships, and friendships. In summary, their happiness is based on Cinderella's happily ever after moment. And lastly, 4. 5 of those reading this, maybe even less than 5, believes that true happiness is staying true to yourself enough to express gratitude to the Creator of all things, listening to your heart, following Christ, being kind, loving, and positive at all times. And more importantly, doing the things that makes you truly happy to be alive. Whatever your perception of happiness is based on, I know for sure it is a core belief rooted in the subconscious mind. Sadly, many who think that happiness is all about mere outward possessions and gratification is only a means of establishing validation for ignorance. My apologies. I'm sorry, not sorry if you believe that the $1 million cash, homes, cars, or businesses can bring you true fulfillment in life. You're totally wrong. Inasmuch they're important or necessary to us, they do not have the potential sustenances for true happiness. The soil of established ignorance and continually being watered by ego and selfish cravings. If they're materialistic, then it's just a contributing factor for dopamine and serotonin rush in our brains. These are the cause of all the misery we see in today's world, in forms of power and fame. I personally do not limit the word desire to the grosser animal cravings like materialism and sex. It therefore exudes the limitations of these things and extends to the higher psychic realm, where its found way much powerful, subtle, and insidious cravings hold in bondage the intellectual and refined perspective of true joy and happiness that cannot be found outside oneself. Rather, it can be found inwards. Many people stand to deprive themselves of true beauty, harmony, love, and kindness, which stands to purify their souls with the true expression of happiness. My spiritual researchers are factual and prophetic because they are directly from God, the Creator of all things, including money. So when we're failed to worship, submit, and acknowledge the presence of God in our lives as the primary creator of all things, then we're subjected to idol worship, also known as money. Most people won't admit that selfishness is the cause of their unhappiness in life. They created a self-imposed mentality for themselves and fall under their soul, destroying delusion due to lack of accountability. Many believe that someone else is to be blamed if things don't work out well in their lives. The catastrophic outcomes of their lives is as a result of someone else's selfishness and not their own. The truth is, when you're willing to admit that your unhappiness is as a result of your own selfishness and ignorance, I tell you this with sincerity and alacrity, that you're not far from the gates of paradise. But as long as you remain convinced that someone else's is to blame for the bad outcomes of our lives or robbing you of your joy, you will remain a prisoner to your self-created purgatory. Happiness is that inward state of perfect satisfaction of joy and peace, created by true wisdom from God, and from which all other desires are eliminated. The satisfactory results from gratified desires, just mere briefs created by delusional perspectives. Until one changes their perspective positively, they'll remain in an illusionary phase of self-created prison. To be honest with you, our materialistic needs increases in demand for gratification. This simply means when you acquire power or fame other than true happiness, peace, that comes from God, you'd constantly obsessively want more. More money, more attention, more fame. It's always wanting and needing more. But when you discover what true happiness and you obtain it from God, you begin to sense still peace that surpasses all understanding. You can't and won't need validation from external gratification as a means to survive. Your basic need is to prioritize making God your first priority. It stirs up this sensation within you, just like the oceans. You'd have the breath of God as a living sacrifice and wisdom within you. You'd begin to grow spiritually as your gifts begin to become heightened. Your voice clamors louder than thunder, as your prayers becomes powerful to command visible results from heaven. You'd also notice that when you speak a word as though you believe that it is already done, you'd see that your demands are attended to instantly. But you must always be subjected to humility, as God despises the proud. Never forget this. God is true wisdom, and true wisdom often purifies the fire of our needs and wants. If you made it to the end of the video, then you're one of the few persons that has the gift of true wisdom from God. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more contents. My name is Bazzy Francis, and until next time, I'd see you in the next video.